Greetings, peoples. Welcome to the Salt Grinder. Today we have a new guest. Finally, after weeks of repeating guests, we finally convinced one person to join in. Do introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Silver, and I'm a guest on the Salt Grinder.
Yep, we've had a nice conversation up in general on the Discord server, and I thought, hey, what the hell? Let's jump this guy in. And so yeah, let's start with something simple. What have you been doing, like during this crisis that will demonetize it or demonetize us if we mention it?
If I'm being honest, a lot of it is just catching up on hobbies that I wasn't able to, do while I was in school.
Well, yeah, that's the best thing about it is that you have a lot of free time and you're stuck home, so you have to do everything to just not be bored.
Yeah, just the only good thing about this is that I've finally been able to just clean up around the house and get back to all the different things I was doing. Like I was trying to learn a language and I didn't have time because of school, and finally I have some time,
What language would that be, out of curiosity?
French.
French? Why French?
Because I took it for 1 year in school and they didn't have a course for the next one, and I wanted to finish what I started.
Oh, okay. Are you just like, one of these 100% complete the game guys, or is it just...
Yes, I am. I'm completionist by nature, but not only that, I do find French interesting.
Okay, that's a topic, because you see, I hate the French.
How dare
You're one of the reasons I hate the French, Arasan. You know that, right?
What is wrong with the French?
What is
Dude,
not
the
wrong?
The French are like Lysander from Pokemon. Even if they lose with style. And that's admirable.
But they lose.
Nobody wins. Nobody wins. Who won? Who's
Britain
next?
did.
You decide.
Britain did.
I hardly call that winning. I call that just leaving they got defeated and they're trying to reach level 0 again because they were in the minus. It's a climb up, but they're just trying hard to reach the 0.
Well, here's the thing. You're speaking their language, aren't you?
They failed when they kicked Margaret Thatcher out because she warned them about the EU. They shouldn't have gotten into the EU to begin with. So no, even they lost.
Yes, but they're very good at winning, which is why they're coming back. But let's keep it cultural here. Let's keep it cultural to make it simple, okay?
All right.
French culture, besides food, is shit.
Not really. French music tends to be good. French literature is actually good. French philosophy is good. So besides the ugly Eiffel Tower, their architecture is good.
But the French, no, I can't agree to this. Here's the thing: everything is good about the French except the French. Is that fair enough?
Let me give you a fairer argument. You know how they say when you're in true love, like despite your flaws, I still love you.
Yeah.
It's okay to have an attitude to the French that is, despite your perfections, I hate you. Perfectly normal.
What about you, Silver? What do you like about the French?
Other than the language, I guess I'd have to say the art. France in general is known for its art, and honestly, it's good.
But
like
the But they're French. I can't get over this.
So listen, if you're judging people based on their nationality, then like everything that has come out of Germany after World War II is just terrible. If that's how you're basing it.
Okay. Let me extend an olive branch here. I like the French. You hate the French, but
Yes.
we both hate the Canadians. How about we agree to that?
I mean,
what do the Canadians ever do
especially
to y'all?
they think they're French.
They're bootleg French and bootleg British, I guess, or something.
No, another reason to hate the Canadians is because what is there? There's nothing there. You won't have good food. You won't have
Interesting.
good
All right.
environment. You won't have good anything. Like, they're bland. They're a bland nation.
Be careful now. Don't shit talk Canada, or else the Prime Minister will give you a phone call and invite your entire family to the country. He's very serious.
Yes. Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is like... How did he get reelected? That's the real question.
Justin Trudeau, the only guy who pulled a black face that cringed even the alt-right.
And he still got elected. That's the funny part. Isn't that odd? If you like, I thought that was the...
It's not odd. It's not odd. Canadians are cowards. They'd elect a guy they know over a guy who can lift them to a better place. They're cowards. The whole society is a joke, honestly.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. But hi, the best.
But yeah, as Silva said, do not judge people by their nationality.
Why not? Why shouldn't I judge a person by their nationality? It's a very useful tool.
You shouldn't judge them don't judge someone by their nationality. Just that gives them an excuse. Judge them because they're consistently a piece of shit.
Well, that's fair enough. Here's my argument. I need a frame of reference to start forming who you are. And your nationality, your height, your sex, your everything kind of guides me to where I need to go. So
I don't think you need a framework. Most people, within the first 5 seconds of them opening their mouth, you already know that you hate them.
I mean, no. Not really. It doesn't tell me much if I despise a person. It doesn't tell me why.
It tells you enough. It tells you enough.
I don't know. Again, what do you guys think? The other two have been very quiet, letting us...
Well, hello everyone. That's first.
Hi.
Hello from the that's the plague now. So, hello from the plagued lands. So, you bring a fair point. You need a frame of reference because there are common things. I don't know how to say it, but common traditions usually are common for a reason. And if you are raised a certain way, with a certain educational system, with a certain illusions as well that your country would sell you, I think you do have substance there that is common between the herd, since that word is becoming more prominent these days in literature. So yeah, so the herd has some characteristics at the end of the day. Mostly, linked to their educational background. And yeah, you could argue that, we children of the internet, but still, you're not going to rid of your whole roots in the country or the piece of land you grew up in. So yeah, that's my take on it. I don't know who the silver guy is, but bring us some silver words, I guess.
To be honest, I was lagging the entire time and I couldn't hear most of what was going on. So if someone could catch me up.
I argue that it's great to judge somebody by their nation.
Initial,
I think it's a use. initial guess. Yeah, it's a useful framework to start guiding you to know the person better.
And that's my point. It's a starting point. You
Yeah.
need to expand after that starting point, and just to go deeper and deeper into how horrible they are.
That's a dark way of putting it, but
it's a consistently dark way.
I'd have to disagree. Like, here's the thing. Especially when it comes to nationalities, you always have to look at the person, not where he came from. Just because someone came from a country that, I don't know, is famous for having liars, okay, doesn't mean that he's also a liar. So if you assume that he's also going to lie, then that's
But there is a high
big deal.
probability.
but it's a safe
Because
Because maybe
assumption,
he's actually one of the most
initial
honest
meeting.
people you'll ever meet, but you judged him based on where he came from.
Yeah, but it's a
Initial
high
judgment,
probability.
though.
It's useful.
Let me explain this very simply to Silver. See, a framework or a stereotype is only as useful as what you're using it for. So when we have a framework based on someone's nationality, how are we using this framework? Are we using it to call that person a liar, or are we calling it to simulate the probabilities of, okay, maybe I should take some caution? You keep it in mind. So that's the use of it. And as far as that use goes, I don't see it as being very harmful, honestly. It's, it's a noted thing. You keep it in the back of your head and you observe.
Yes. So when I say I hate the French,
And
I don't hate
trust
the
me,
French person. I just hate the French. Very specific.
and trust me, I'm saying that as an Arab. I'm literally at the bottom of the food chain, and I still value the food chain.
That's that's another dark way of putting it. But I don't think Arabs are on the bottom of the food chain. But
As far as
Apparently we are.
stereotypes go, they are.
As far as
I mean, it does
stereotypes
come.
go,
It does come with its pros and cons at the end of the day.
no, I know a ton of people who pay their lives to be, part of our welfare stated, very well provided for atmosphere.
Well,
No, but-
trust me, this is great. Whatever you guys have right now, the way I've been seeing things developing in other countries, since the topic is the topic, you cannot avoid the avalanche. Yeah, it is quite remarkable what's happening in some Arab countries.
Yes, we actually handled the virus quite well. We're
I
containing
wouldn't
it
say
properly.
quite well. I disagree. I hugely disagree, because at some point you would have to go to work again, and this will spring up again. But I think, I could be wrong here, but I'm talking out of my ass, big time. But I think
That's what we all do.
because that's the lack of readiness in the country was to be made up for by the lockdown that is currently happening. Because in parallel to the lockdown, what is happening in the country, they have built 2 field hospitals, which is good. That means that the delay is not delaying, is not ridding of the virus. There is no such a thing, but they do not want to be overwhelmed, very much in the first days, where they don't know the virus very well. Your doctors are not familiar with it, and at the same time, you lack the equipment and the beds necessary. So whatever is happening in the country is, I think, a chess move, not a checkers move. If you're in Italy's situation, you're forced to play checkers. But since you still do not have the situation as bad as Italy, then you could play some chess. And I think chess is being played in the country right now for a change, which was a welcome change, I would say.
But
So yeah.
here's one thing. It's not just the government and how they're handling it. It's the people too. You look at the States, everybody's racing to buy toilet paper,
Yeah.
right? So even the people here are kind of relaxed.
The benefits of washing, that's the benefits of a different hygiene.
Yeah.
It is. Trust me,
but
because
that's not what happened though. What happened is that toilet paper can sustain you for a very long time. All you need is like, let's say 3 12 packs, and that's good for one person for a very long time, right? What happened is a lot of people started buying out of proportion, and so everybody panicked and started buying like toilet paper instead of actual food. And they cleaned the shelves out of panic. And people who also saw a business opportunity started cleaning shelves too, so they can sell at a higher price and make some profit. And it just all became an amalgamation of stupidity, where everybody just bought out of panic.
Well, what's the point for a
me?
business now? Even the dollar is going to crash. So, I mean, what is happening here?
You know what really kills me?
Yeah?
Yeah. We would
I
love
still
that.
don't. I still don't understand the correlation between a respiratory disease and toilet paper. I still don't get it.
Two
There isn't.
things, two things that could be linked here. At least if I am to die, seriously, if I am to die, I want to die, one, clean. Yeah. Two, not wearing a mask, because the mask will kill me out of suffocation more than the virus would. So two things, you should be. And I don't want to die hungry as well. So what happened in the UK was they actually bought the toilet paper and pasta. They don't want to die hungry, if it comes to that. And they don't want to die dirty. And I think that's something to learn here. Priorities. People have priorities.
That makes sense for the British, but that is too smart for the Americans. I think it's something else. I don't know what it is.
I think they've watched too many zombie movies, and that's actually people
What's
are behaving like that. People are behaving like that. I mean, The Walking Dead, whatever. I mean, it's not a movie technically, but whatever. Yeah, people are behaving like this is a movie, and this is the apocalypse. This is like day one after an outbreak, which is fine. I don't know if you guys looked at the data, but looks like most of the cases will be mild unless you are asthmatic with any health problems like heart disease, diabetic, whatever. Yeah, any complications. The complications would kill you with the weakened system and not the virus itself. So people are behaving like this is killing about 50% of the cases. People are treating it as such. People think the bodies will be so piled up in the streets, and it could be bad if you have an older population like Italy, because Italy is an old population, and the US as well, by the way. Yeah, so it could be a problem.
That's why they call the virus the boomer remover.
Well, I've heard this, but yeah, well, you'd be able to eat toilet paper if you're hungry, no problem. It's organic.
I've seen a video on YouTube where somebody made.
I mean, if it's good enough for your ass, then it's very good
paper
for your mouth as well. So that's a creative person, the whiskey of the apocalypse.
Yeah, basically, like extracted the sugar out of the toilet paper and actually got some alcohol out of it. Which is yet another way that people, whatever society it is, it will find a way to get drunk.
Of course, that's actually, the only thing that I've seen like people do, didn't actually pay attention to any lockdown things, or I've been seeing most of my friends that I know on Snapchat or on any social media platform, they have not stopped drinking. These people don't give a crap. Look. The problem is, I don't think they're alcoholic or anything, but they always think because of a shutdown is coming soon, as of a complete lockdown, because the UK still did not lock down everything. Yeah, the gyms are open, the shops are open, some university facilities are open. Yeah, they are adopting a different strategy, but let's not go there now. So people did not stop going to the bars, and I don't think they will. And I've still see like 4 a.m. people like walking the walk of shame after being drunk at 6 a.m. or I'm waking up to have my coffee, or maybe awakened by anything, awakened by their noises sometimes. They don't give a crap, these people. People will drink whether if it's the apocalypse or a good day. They don't give a crap. You know what I mean? It's always there.
Like you said, it's all about priorities. You don't want to die dirty, hungry, or sober.
It looks like it. I mean,
Okay, so I do wanna present another topic here, which is something that the U.S. Congress is trying to do, and we all know how good the boomers of the U.S. Congress like to screw the internet with, right? So this time, what they're trying to end is, well, encryption. You know how if you
End-to-end
text,
encryption.
you know how you're trying end-to-end encryption. So places like WhatsApp, Telegram, all these things, they always say about how your messages are encrypted. So if a hacker tries to look at it from the outside, they see a random
Yeah.
noise, right? The U.S. or more primarily the big five when it comes to spying, the Five Eyes as they call them, they want to end encryption together and kind of have a safety key where they can access anybody's texts for the safety of the public, of course. And we've seen this before. We've seen this with what do you call it? Air flight bags, where they started telling manufacturers, give us like a universal key that we can use to search any place where we suspect. And that did not work because that got leaked online, and suddenly everybody can access anybody's bag. And then they had to get rid of that. And now they want to do it with encryption. They want a universal key that they can use to access the encryption, which sounds horrifyingly like a horrifyingly bad idea. What do you guys think?
I mean, anything to limit people's, free speech. I mean, it's again, how is that different from the Soviets, for example, putting, these small recorders in everybody's room to hear the conversation at this point? Like, are you really interested in the amount of data that is going to come in, overwhelming even? I mean, what, are you going to put an algorithm that chooses random numbers? Like, do you know how many people just sext on text, and how many people just talk, about bullshit or memes? Or, I mean, what's good is it for the government at this point to know what individuals are talking about? Maybe they would watch some people, and I'm sure they do in other means, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do. Like, if somebody's suspect of having some bad, drug case, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, anything bad, basically. They would watch them in other ways, probably even watching their texts somehow. So, or emails or calls or whatever. Yeah.
Honestly, to me, it proves why communism is better than capitalism.
Okay.
That's a bold
Proceed.
statement. Yes. Yeah. You have the mic. Go ahead. Prove us.
It seems that capitalists are more tempted by communist tactics than communists are tempted by capitalist tactics. It's like everybody's looking at China and be like, why not us as well? Like, if you can't beat them, join them,
But no. That's how this works.
Not how it works. Yeah.
Look me in the eyes and tell me I'm wrong.
Special economic zones.
I cannot
China,
watch your
anybody?
eyes because you haven't even turned up your camera, so we cannot see
My
your beautiful
camera,
face.
my camera's broken.
Well, there's an invention. They call it the cell phone and
The
the
cell
iPad.
cell phone will show angles
you guys
that
do it. One
nobody
sec.
wants to see.
Angles that nobody wants to see. Interesting. So, you're
Cell phone
our
cameras
host,
are not.
our host, the professional host, just leaves in the middle of the conversation, goes, takes a leak, which we all know that he has a small bladder. So that's a fact known that we have already told people in other shows. So you could be his second and ask questions if you want, or I could do that. Yeah, and his thing just fell. Even his headset. The guy is so dumb he doesn't even know how to secure a headset. Anyways, life.
Anyway, Trillion, great guy.
Yes, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, he's my brother after all, right? We share blood. Hopefully, that's all we share.
I mean, if you don't want my dashing good looks, by all means.
Yeah. You're a beaut to look at. I give you that. Such a shining star,
Yes, of
shining
course.
from your tip, of course.
Trillion, you used to have good looks, but then you shaved it off.
Yeah.
I would have reacted if this wasn't the 50th time you said that.
No, it's just. I don't think it's out of choice at this point. So don't kick a guy when he's down. Yeah.
Here starts the tune. You're joining me soon. You're joining me soon.
Oh, trust me, I've been looking at the the alternatives. I'm weighing my options.
Yeah, might as well just be honest and just.
It's one of these moves. Once you go there, you're not coming back. You understand?
Yes,
it's one of these things.
It
is one of these things.
It's comfortable. I don't need shampoo. I hate shampoo. I've always hated shampoo. So
let's actually try to get some viewers here. Let's plug you guys.
Dude, we're at 6 viewers. That's a record, okay?
Oh, is it?
Yes, we're at 6 viewers. If we can make it more, we're just breaking records at this point. But going back to Arasan's point on communism not being tempted by capitalism, that's wrong. Because what China did to evolve into the powerhouse it is right now is they set up special economic zones where basically it's a capitalistic zone that supports the place. And they turned themselves from a purely communist system to some communism when it's oppressive and a lot of capitalism when it benefits the country. So no, America still got this. Capitalism still got this.
Nice analysis of my joke.
Yes.
I mean, well, what you guys want to talk about? Let's actually
the encryption.
Criticize each. I mean, encryption. All right. I mean, I told you. They want eyes on everybody. At this point, are they interested in my sexting? Are they interested in my
the
memes?
real question?
I mean,
the real question that pops in my head is don't you guys already get the data?
Somehow, right? I mean, you get it through, visited sites, visited whatever. Why do you guys do want whatever I say specifically?
No, it's
What's
not
the
even
importance?
That. Google sells our data. Facebook does. Every major company got caught at some point selling data, or at least exploiting it somewhat. So why would you want to also end encryption? If anything, that keeps us safe from each other, and you already have the back door.
Honestly, I think.
Are we safe? If you capture now, if I tell you, oh yeah, Trillion, you're so stupid, your mom is so fat, and you would capture that and go sue me, that is considered evidence.
Well,
no, here's the deal. Here's the deal. You made a good point, which is they already have our data. They already have our WhatsApp data, our Telegram data. So it seems very clear that this bill they're trying to push to end-to-end encryption is not about WhatsApp. It's not about us. There's something else going on that they want to have access to. So I don't think they give a shit about us, and I don't think it is even about us.
So yeah, people in the stream, your dick pics are safe.
Honestly, there is one problem with end-to-end encryption. It's the primary way by which VPNs work. They will end VPNs.
And God forbid they end the
because a lot of people are using VPNs to do a lot of things they couldn't have done without it. Dude, the entire Chinese presence online is just on the backbone of VPNs.
Yeah, but I think if China wanted to stop it, they would. They just want if you're sophisticated enough to have the equipment that would allow you to use VPN, you are upper echelon kind of, and you are educated and trained in other things. So, they just let it be. I think they would have stopped it if they wanted at this point. But they do want some, friction with the world as well. They don't want to actually have an uprising at the end of the day.
No,
so
you reminded me of that. You reminded me of that story where Australia made a great firewall to stop underage people from watching pornography. And within the first 40 minutes, a horny teen hacked it and broke the whole thing.
Well, you cannot stop biology, can you?
40 minutes.
Life always finds a way.
No. Here's the thing about VPNs. Like, China can't stop it. Because if you ban all VPNs, people will still find a way to get them. I don't think China can stop it if they wanted to.
It's not banning VPNs. It's working through the process by which VPNs work.
You can't do that. It is encrypted.
Yeah, and what are they trying to do right now?
They're trying to remove it from main platform. If you remove it from public access, NordVPN, one of the very, very much popular sponsors of YouTube, will stop being a business. But that doesn't mean VPNs will go away.
They won't. That's not what I said. I said they'll be practically useless.
They won't be, though.
What is your main use for VPNs right now? Like, if you wanted to actually use VPN.
Are you talking about me or the general public?
Well, you are a part of the general public. Don't distance yourself. So tell us.
Well, the two things mainly.
I think everybody watching and in this stream know exactly what I use it for.
No. Here's the thing.
But that's besides the point. That's besides the point.
You can use the VPN to buy a birthday present.
I mean, at this point, I'm just asking, really.
No. Here's the real reason. If you're using an internet cafe, that's easy hack. So you use a VPN to keep your data safe coming in and going back. If you're in another country and a certain video on YouTube you're watching is banned in that country, you can have access to it. Stuff like that. That's the main use people apply it for. Safety and accessing things they would normally could not. Another use you can use it is if Netflix Kuwait doesn't have your favorite show, but Netflix of America does, you just VPN onto America and then you can watch the Netflix show, which I've done. So, yeah.
Honestly,
good uses,
it's more of a thing in principle. Like, let's say someone does want to do something that is illegal and away from the eyes of the government. By all means, why should we prevent them?
I mean, depends.
Depends on the thing?
Yeah, basically, you just we cannot say all things people would do, or maybe I want to stop it.
No, here's the deal. It's literally the argument of Foucault. It's basically the argument of Foucault, which is
Again,
I do not support capital punishment, not because it is cruel, but because I do not trust the executioners. I don't trust the government doing that. That's his only reason for not supporting capital punishment, and I'm part of that boat. It is not it's not like blind skepticism of government, as in government equals bad. It's not that. It's more of checks and balances. Do we trust them with it? So it's less about the illegal activity itself and more about the people who will enforce it.
Who's them? It's us, kind of, right?
It's not us. Democracy is a scam.
Oh, come on. I mean, maybe, but not to that extent.
Democracy has an influence. It applies pressure. The politicians have to do everything in secret. I'm not saying the people are powerless. I'm saying it's a tug of war, and I don't trust the people on the other side.
So it's a representative democracy. So basically, it's the alternative to always just getting referendums. I would see, at least you would, you want the elites discussing the elite matters, right? Kind of, in theory, yeah. So I actually would trust the capital punishment if I knew exactly, not me as a person, as a collective, you have to. Otherwise, why do you go to a voting booth if you do not trust the process? Why are all these systems democratic now?
It's simple. I don't like the process. I think that it has a lot of flaws, but that doesn't change the fact that it's the best thing we have right now. And
Cool.
I can admit that.
So who would you, for example, trust with encryption or capital punishment, for that matter? But
no one.
oh, well, if somebody will do it, then who would you trust more? I mean, if it's already is going to be done anyway.
How about it's just not done?
I don't think it works like that these days.
Well, if
I mean,
it's
a
not
lot of
gonna be
places
done-
don't have capital punishment.
Well, if it's not going to be done, who enforces it not being done? That's another question. So it's the same thing. It's the same question still. Who would you trust with that power and authority?
Fair enough. Although, again, keep in mind, I may be like a hardcore libertarian, but I wouldn't think I'm an anarchist, because it's not like the end goal for me is that the government is demolished. To me, prosperity exists in that tension of keeping them in check, of trying to pull power from them and then pulling it back. As long as that tension exists, things will be fine. They cannot be beaten, and we need them, but we also need that push and pull. We need that tension.
Well, isn't that the point of
parliament is for?
Yeah, isn't that the point of representative democracy? Is that if you don't like a guy, you
checks and balances. Just. Well, in theory, we're still speaking in theory here, because things go wrong very quickly when you have, a guy who has an IQ of 160 voting and a guy who has 60. You got a problem there. I know you bring all the argument of the natural distribution and everything, but it's still, we wouldn't know how these data would work unless 100% of the people would go vote, which we never have more than 40. I haven't seen anything more than 40 in a while, actually. 40%.
Yeah, and that's one flaw of democracy. It's like Trillian and his Discord server. Basically, you remember the vote on Minecraft?
Yes.
When you did a vote, do you guys want the server to be on Minecraft Java or Minecraft Bedrock? And what won is Minecraft Bedrock, and it was 2 votes versus 1 vote. And then all the people spoke, and they're like, "No, we wanted Java." And it's like, why didn't you vote? Why didn't you vote? So yeah, like that's one flaw of democracy. In theory, unless everybody votes, or the vast majority of people, overwhelming majority votes, you don't really have. It's not ideal, and also that thing about the IQ. I don't think it bothers me, honestly. I'm against what is it called, meritocracy. So no, it's fine. If someone has an IQ of 5, they should vote.
No, that wasn't.
Well, that was my point.
Yourself.
I was like, I was just saying you're gonna get different quality of vote. For example, I could sell an idea, that is really simple. For example, 1,000 KD or 1,000 pounds, or 1,000 currency, beans, whatever. You want to give it to the whole population. I'm saying, or arguing, that the lower the IQ of a person would be, the easier they would be sold into such things. Whether the upper people who are trained in mathematics and economy and they would actually say, no, who's going to pay for it? Are we gonna basically inflate the currency that way, or inflate the beans that way? And now it's useless. See, that's the difference of vote that you're getting. Some people who are pragmatic, going to attack the problem in different angles, finding all the intricacies and the plus and minuses, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. And you're going to go get people who are like, yummy, yummy, 1,000 beans in my plate.
Isn't that what happened to that African country? Which one was it? The one that they reached a bill of 1 trillion or whatever. what they did, like the guy who won the vote was basically the guy who said, "I'm gonna print you guys money and give it to you," and so
Oh
everybody
yeah,
thought that was a good
didn't.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and
didn't
voted
survive
for him.
6
Yep.
months.
Yeah, and to me, these are like two problems with democracy. The first one is that democracy means the rule of the people. But we tend to forget that the people as rulers can be incompetent rulers. That's one. Two, we forget that the rule of the people, if we have the rule of the people can be tyrannical. We forget these two things. And, it seems like this weird, quirky idea, but on very small scales, like Discord, which I know it's not like representative of society
It is a community of some sort.
It is a community of some sort. And I did see a tyrannical majority. I did see a tyrannical, democracy, because the people can be tyrannical. And I think people need to be checked and balanced as much as any other ruler, honestly.
That's when the power of the argument would come. If you're a minority, if you have the argument, yeah, I'm not saying ethnic, there's a lot of things that come into play. Some people will just not listen to a certain type of human, which is fine. Let's ignore this right now. But if I were to present an idea nicely, that I would convince people of the other majority that they could jump ship, which happens all the time. People jump ship like crazy these days. And I'm not saying changing 180 degrees, but upon an issue. Well, that happened in the UK, kind of, with the referendum. Not referendum,
Mhm.
with the the elections. I mean, last 6 months or something. I don't remember. Yeah, for the new government, basically, people just jumped ship over an issue. And that's fine. That's democracy in its finest. That's the oldest democracy actually practicing democracy, regardless of the outcome. I'm not going to comment about the outcome. I don't understand the system, but I'm seeing that the possibility of people just jumping ship, voting for a party that they didn't sign up for or have no ties to because they believe that idea more than their own. That is democracy in its finest.
And honestly, using the UK as an example is a little bit of cheating, because it is democracy at its finest. It is the best example of democracy. Everybody else, though.
No,
Yeah,
dude,
everybody else in the world is a little bit.
there are two democratic systems, as far as I can tell. There is the British method and there's the French method, and the French method never worked.
No love for the French people in this podcast. I give you that.
No, I just look at, like Britain and France had a very nice conversation on who should rule the world. Okay, Britain won, so I'm Team Britain. Okay, I'm just that simple. It's just that simple with me.
Well, that's not a bad analogy. I mean,
So yeah, sadly, Silver will
at
not be
least you have
joining
a
us.
prime minister. At least you have a prime minister. He would tell the truth. He actually went to the public in that was a brave move, because that could have burnt him out of politics right there. And I think it might. Yeah. It will depend on the outcome of the next months as well. But still, to come to the people and tell the truth. People respect that in a way. People made fun of him. Yeah. People are like, oh, that's all you're taking. They're criticizing the action, but not the honesty. No, I haven't met anybody who actually, I'm not these days I'm in isolation myself, but I'm saying online. Yeah. I haven't seen people basically criticizing that. They're criticizing the whole policy, but not the honesty. And that's good. I mean, they are the finest democracy for a reason. They are losing faith in the system. That felt some people, especially younger generation, but still, they're millennials anyway and Gen Z. So we're talking about a very
Hi.
These
I'm
are
using
the
my
angles
phone.
of
Angles.
mobile cameras
I'm using my
that
These
I
phone.
was
are the
talking about.
angles, yeah? These are the angles you wanted to
These
avoid?
are the angles.
I
Yes.
see. Oh, yeah, okay.
What's up, homeless?
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Yes, you are looking good, yeah. Thank you. You're blowing us kisses as well. How very generous.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
MashaAllah.
Well, you've been following the conversation, so, any input from you? Don't close the cam. It's fine.
Democracy, I've always argued against it. I was always the edgy kid in politics class that wants to argue for autocracy. But I'm not going to do that because I already know it's a very weak argument from the sense that it depends on a lot of ideal things, like having a good person in that position of autocracy and, stuff like that. Well, I'm gonna just go
remember
for
that day when you-
what is it called? Meritocracy, which I heard the Arasan doesn't like.
It seems like
I do agree with
you forgot
Mahmoud's
that day
point on-
when I
You don't
disassembled
get the
your
same
meritocracy
quality
argument.
of votes.
No, let's hear it.
That's
Let's hear
what
it.
gave us stuff like the 2016 election. I do think that the people should have a level of merit that is a requirement. Why is there an age requirement but there's no merit requirement? And when you do that, you have to, and it's something that is reasonable. You don't want to be picking people, right? When you put these limits, the number of possible voters goes down. The power of an individual vote goes up. But you can't drop it so much that it becomes easy to corrupt, easy to buy votes and stuff like that.
Well, that's
That's
how the
how I see
Yeah,
Romans did
here's
it,
the deal.
didn't they?
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Because I am not going back from my argument, which is about meritocracy.
شو صفنين بأمي؟
What?
What? What?
That was in the
No,
language I cannot understand.
Yeah.
No, here's the deal.
What happened?
Here's my problem. Here's my problem with meritocracy. Who gets to decide what merit is? Is it college education? Well, guess what? Most people in the US are not even college educated. And there are people who are you can demonstrate it, that are much smarter and much wiser who never went to college than people who went to college. Do you decide it by people having a job? Do you want the social credit system that China has? Who gets to decide merit? And I remind you of the argument I made to you 3 years ago. If we had meritocracy, technically speaking, Hillary Clinton should have won. Because technically speaking, she has more merit to be presidential.
And
This is my
that's
problem
fine.
with meritocracy.
And the social credit system seems like it could potentially, on theory, be a good way to solve this because it seems like
Everything
something
sounds good in theory.
Yes,
Everything
we
sounds
can
good in
only
theory
make
until
theories.
it's in the wrong hands. I remind you of what you said
Democracy is being
earlier, 5
abused in the
minutes
wrong
ago.
hands right now. If you have stuff that are so easy like gerrymandering, it is democracy is
remind
great
you-
on theory too.
Yeah, but keep in mind, gerrymandering passed under the nose of democracy. You said something 5 minutes ago. You said, and the merit criteria should be reasonable. I tell you, how can you enforce that? How can you guarantee that they will be reasonable? How will you guarantee that they won't be in the wrong hands? This is communism 2.0. It's awesome, but let's make sure it's not in the wrong hands until it is.
Okay. Let me.
Well, I am
interject
really
here.
impressed. I'm really impressed that he remembered something that he said 3 years ago. Dude, that's above my pay grade. But yeah, go on.
No, that's
Yeah,
that's how salty the Arasan is that he'll hold grudges. Even if he won the argument, he'll
I
still
don't
hold a
even
grudge. I don't
remember
know
3
how.
years ago. I don't remember that we've talked about this before.
That
but
was
it's- I'm
impressive
gonna
because-
pretend like we did.
Dude, I wrote you a poem about it. I said
Wow.
roses are red,
Democracy.
roses are red as the sun. Under meritocracy, Hillary should have won. I still remember sending that message.
No.
Go check your text messages.
No. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I will call to mention that's how the Romans did it, the way Yasha described, which is nobody can reach high office until they've been at least elected to some lower position. So you can't be consul, which is the highest office you can get, unless you are elected to a praetor, or not a praetor, even to an office of choice. And you need to be 40, and you need to have some sort of clout behind you, or otherwise you can't reach consul. And so the idea is you build your political career slowly. You begin with a lower office and work your way up until the time you're 40. You can become then something. So they had a lot of checks and balances during that. But we all know how Rome fell. So again, there is scrutiny to be had here, and I still think the systems
whole
we have
point.
now are the best.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of having people vote like in their entirety, the whole spectrum, because you want somebody to speak up for the common worker who is a common worker. You want somebody who basically is a PhD, guy, and you want the PhD rights to be explained by a PhD guy and stuff like that. You cannot just have the best people in the world run shit, because people are not robots, and people in the upper echelon of being smart sometimes, not all the times, most of them are a bit on the practical side, and human beings are not really that practical in all times. So you do want the whole spectrum, because there is nothing good about having the amusement park, but somebody has to put it there. I mean, you would argue it's fun, but I would tell you, VR, you have virtual reality, bye-bye. Yeah, but still, somebody has to do that fun activity. Because if you actually let the economists and the mathematicians run things, for example, the smartest people. Did you ever enjoy a conversation with a mathematician?
Probably not.
No. Here's the thing.
Okay, wait. Before we get that,
sure.
Okay, that's all fair enough, and we need representations for people who, of all different positions on the spectrum. But you get quite a majority of individuals, especially in those regions, who do not see voting as that. They don't see as it a method of representing themselves. You get people who just either are easily influenced, which promotes the thing that goes a lot in the US, which is making election campaigns just one big advertisement scheme of who can advertise themselves better. It's been like that for God knows how long. It's not just with Trump. It's why the charismatic people always win, So that shows you that there are people who only care about what they hear rather than what they want. And then you get to the people who are divided.
And why should that necessarily be bad? If the US as a state values charisma more than intelligence, who are we to tell them that is the wrong value to look for in a leader? I see them doing just fine.
Actually, I think as Mahmoud said, I think having the smartest people be in charge is a bad idea, and I actually have a historical example to give.
Sure.
So first things first, I forgot to have my lighting on. There we go. Nice and handsome.
More shiny.
When the nuclear bomb was finally understood and it dropped on Japan, and the US had a monopoly on nuclear bombs, a conversation was supposed to be had on how to handle the Soviet Union. And most of the mathematicians thought of one particular way. And even the pacifists of them, the most pacifist of the mathematicians, were arguing for this solution because there was no other way it could work. They couldn't argue to remove that power. They can't do that because this was already off the table when the US suggested that maybe we should take that power from everybody and put it in a centralized location. Stalin said, "You first," and that kind of destroyed everything. So a lot of people said, a lot of mathematicians said, there should be a preemptive nuclear strike on the Soviet Union before they get to have that bomb. And the idea of that is to if you hit them first and you hit them quickly and you clean up very quickly, a lot of death and destruction will happen, but it's better than the alternative, right? And the alternative being nuclear catastrophe on everybody's part. So a lot of mathematicians were pointing that way. But whoever was the U.S. president at the time, whoever was after Nixon, decided not to do that. And if he was a mathematician, he probably would have did that. But because he was of a lower level of intelligence than those mathematicians, he could still make the moral argument of that's not right. We'll go through the Cold War, and they did, and the Soviet Union collapsed on its own. And nuclear tension is still ongoing, but now it's reached a point where we were able to move past it. And that wouldn't have happened with a mathematician in charge. A mathematician would have simply nuked the Soviet Union and fuck the consequences.
That's a very nice story, actually.
Yes.
It's fair enough.
I mean, you cannot just, count beans at the end of the day, on probabilities. You'd have to have the human element somehow. And yeah.
And I'm not rejecting the human element.
No, the level of advice should be...
Oh, I'm not attacking you.
Yeah,
To me, Yasha, you're Syrian. And you know what happened when Bashar al-Assad got elected. That was meritocracy at its finest. That was meritocracy
His dad made
at
him
its finest.
president.
What?
His dad made him president. What are you talking about?
No,
I mean,
let me tell you what I mean. I didn't finish.
Okay, go
That
on.
was meritocracy at its finest, because the age of being a president was like around 40, but Bashar was around 35. So what they did, okay, let us rework the conditions for being a president. First of all, let's reduce the age to 35. Let's put these conditions. Let's reduce the military rank you need to be in. Let's do this. The president shall be an eye doctor. The president shall have a long neck. The president shall have this, which basically fit Bashar al-Assad like a glove. That is meritocracy on the actual field. That's meritocracy on the ground. You just play with the criteria however you want and then say, look at this person, he has merit. Let's give him power. It's communism 2.0. That's exactly how it will go.
I don't think it was communism, more like party politics.
No, by communism, the point of comparison I make with it by communism is that a good ideal in theory will be manipulated by actual powers and dynamics within the actual practical world in order to fit certain things. That's the comparison I make to it with communism. As in, it sounds great in theory, but in practicality, it will be used as a tool for the people in power.
Oh, okay. Number one, what in democratic nations right now, what are the people or entities that limit the power of presidents and limit the power of fucking with the constitution? Who does that? Things like Congress and Senate.
You have the court. Forgot the name of them.
And the Supreme Court, of course.
You have the Supreme Court. You have the Congress. You have all of that.
And why not have those in situations like the Syria that you've described, even though it wasn't accurate to what actually happened?
Yeah, and one of those is the people.
And the people, look, again, I didn't want... You're arguing between people.
I made this argument for Trillion. I made this argument to Trillion. I was talking about Agario. You played Agario. And I was using it as an example to study political systems. And what's the ideal Agario game that will basically give you prosperity. And the best Agario game is the one when you have like 4 or 5 people that are extremely huge and they keep fighting with each other. And then the people under them, they keep growing as these people keep them in check. If you put meritocracy, you literally go to the government or you go to one of these blobs and tell them, you know what? You decide what counts as the people. You determine what's the size of the other blob and what type of blob it is. You literally chain the definition of that blob we call the people practically in power to another blob.
If it's tied to a concrete system, that couldn't be fucked around to suit specific people or specific parties of people.
Well, you're fucking with it if you put meritocracy.
Only initially. Yes, fair enough.
Not initially. Meritocracy is like a huge long-term goal. Like
It is.
once you reach the idea, once we transcend to like a new dimension of being and reach fucking Buddha level, then maybe meritocracy will work. But no, you don't start with meritocracy. You start with the tug of war. You start with the push and pull. You start with the tension. You start with the chaos that will actually keep people in check. You don't start with meritocracy. You're going all Athens on me.
We didn't
I
start
hate
with
Athens,
meritocracy.
and you're going full Athens on me.
I think you made him go full Athens. I don't think that was the core of his argument. Because
Meritocracy is meritocracy.
No,
What?
hold on. He said that he started with meritocracy, and then he said he's going to make an argument for autocracy, and then he put that aside, and then the version of meritocracy that he presented was an upgraded version of his argument, and I think you've totally ignored that and just attacked the word meritocracy.
I don't think I ever heard him say that.
Yeah, because you jumped on it immediately.
He didn't
Well,
say
you
it.
could
He
explain
didn't say it.
No, here's
I'm
the
sure
thing.
you could explain it.
Here's the
Okay,
thing. And
explain it.
Yasha, tell me if I got this right from what I've from that initial
All right.
3 sentences you got before Arasan jumped at you. Basically, he said,
Yeah, I'm the villain. I'm the bad guy.
I didn't say that. You said that.
We all
Okay.
love you.
I'm the Bernie supporter. I know.
Now,
God.
here's the thing, right?
A
So
supporter still?
they call themselves the Bernie Bros, and that I think that says enough.
Yeah, enough for me. That's enough for me. Get away from me. Sometimes I
They
do
should
actually
call
like
themselves
being
the
in
Bernie
isolation.
boomers.
That's why it's nice that we have an isolation going on and you don't have to interact with some people. I mean, it's people like that. The Bernie brothers.
now, here's the thing, right? So what he's suggested is that a person doesn't get elected immediately, or can be elected from no public office to immediately the highest form of office, just right off the get-go. The meritocracy system, the checks and balances that would be included is that a person works their way up to the highest democratic seat. So they start somewhere where they can be tested, and if they fuck things up on a local level, and then they can proceed their way up. And again, that's how the Romans did it. You start at a smaller office, and your political career is a career where you work your way up, and it all happens with a democratic election each time until you reach consul. Is that what you were going for, Yasha?
That isn't an element what I was going for, and that's how I thought democracy worked. But apparently not in most countries, all of them. But there's
because here's
still
the
an
deal.
element of what I
Continue.
was arguing to. Okay, تفضل. Go ahead.
No, continue. There's a lag.
He caught himself this time. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm still arguing that there should be some form of limitations on who can vote, and that is what makes him angry. And I understand that, because whenever you give the power to decide who can vote, things can go south pretty quickly, and I'm aware of that. But with politics, it can always go south. My suggestion in the beginning was to make it only a minor limitation.
Oh no.
To kind of X out the worst cases and leave so many people that it's still not easy to fuck with. And if you make that consistent and you make it constitutional, so the Supreme Court and the higher ups can limit the capability of fucking with those parameters, then that seems to me like an upgraded form of normal democracy. Everything goes on the same.
What would be a parameter of that? Because we can theorize, but again, if a practical example would help. You said age doesn't work that well. So what else would be better?
I think if anything like this form of meritocracy would be implemented anytime in the future, it would be by the time that most superpowers adopted the social credit system, and there will be a form of that being used, because I see that as inevitable at this. China's just the pioneer of social credit.
No.
Inevitable. It will crash
Inevitable.
down faster
All
than
right,
faster.
let's not crash it
immediately.
immediately. Let's not crash
Okay.
it immediately. Let's see.
Sure.
Let's go to point zero here. Yeah, the credit system. What would you recommend? Like, I'm not trying to burn your idea or anything, throw it in the trash. We're just trying
I
to
am.
understand.
I
Whatever.
am too.
Not my intention. So
Sure,
basically,
sure.
I'm trying to understand, like, on the point of zero, because to go to one, which is meritocracy, you said the zero should be in place before, which is basically the social credit system. What would you think, like, the main parameters of such a system could be, and how would we decide that they are the parameters? Why? The how? Why are they there to be parameters? What do you think that are the most important stuff in having as parameters in this social credit system?
Well, see, the entire concept of social credit, how do I put it?
Well, take your time. It's a big question.
It is a big question. And I don't think I have any understanding of how a proper social credit system would work. I don't think the one that China's trying to implement is going to be a proper way to run a country for long term, unless you want to go full communist once again, which they would do that. But that's like the first system ever implemented. I'm sure things that are more reasonable, that are more focused towards whatever you would call contribution to society, rather than not going against the government and not causing dissent.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, but here's the deal. This is your idea. So surely you have at least a vague idea of what these parameters would be. So when you say not everybody should vote, we should limit it in a small sense, as you say that, you should have a vague visualization of some of these parameters. If you say them, I won't jump on you, I promise, but just a visualization. Where are you going? Which direction are you heading in? So give me a vague parameters you think are good enough.
Well, I think a good start would be whatever was working in the Chinese system. I mean, not cutting traffic light is a good thing. I think it shows discipline. It shows that you
Crime
actually
is
care about the
definitely
law.
a major part of it.
Yeah. Well, social contribution you mentioned, for example, like what volunteering you'd say. Like we should know what the Chinese definition of these parameters are. I mean, not the literal like translation, just the definition of what social contribution would mean. What, for example, law obedience would mean. What, for example, what's a felony? Well, I mean, stuff like that. Basically, I wouldn't want, for example, somebody who served a jail sentence. I think if you actually serve a jail sentence, you shouldn't be elected outright, because at one point, I know, you're going to say people change. You're not actually excluding, but when a few are going to rule, we want them as perfect as possible. So, true. I'm with you in this idea. Like, if we could actually define parameters, leave the implementation bit that Arasan has a problem with, and let's see if it's actually implementable. And let's not talk about who is going to implement it yet. Like, what do you think? Like, from the Chinese system, like if we were to compare the systems, what's good in the Chinese system? To begin with, like we said, social contribution is a good thing once defined. Not cutting traffic lights. What else?
Well, see, this question would be much easier to answer if Daddy Corona didn't go ahead and ruin it for us. We'd have some data or something things to
Don't
work
mention
with.
the virus's name. We're demonetized now. Good job.
Oh, don't worry. This might be my last Salt Grinder, since in the past 72 hours I've coughed twice and sneezed once. I'm pretty sure it's over for me.
You know, once you
keep
go
count.
with the even numbers with the sneezes, then you'd have to worry. Yeah.
Okay. I'm holding up.
Okay. Here's
Singles
the
are
deal,
fine.
Mahmoud, I have a question for you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well,
When you
Fire
talk
away.
about these, when you talk about the idea that you just said, which is I don't think that someone who was in prison should run for office. When you say that,
Yes.
do you want a practical solution, or do you want, just something that makes people safe?
Well, I would say a little bit of both, but mostly on the safe side, because at the end of the day, if you were giving an opportunity to rule a country, it's 1 out of, what is the American population now? Minus the deaths of
300, I think.
minus 1,000. Anyways, so these people, if you're getting 1 out of a lot, then might as well get the most perfect individual. That's what I'm trying to say.
And you think that would practically make a difference if it's applied?
I mean, it should. At least I wouldn't have to worry about the alternative.
No, because here's the deal.
Because this person
Would
has
you
been
rather-
proven in court that he could actually be a bad person. So on one
here's the
point
deal.
in time in his life. Yeah.
Here's
So
the
it's
deal.
a good
Since we're talking about practical change, something that will actually have a real-world implication, would you rather have in office someone who served time in jail for marijuana use, for example?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have someone who got away with corruption, money laundering, and pedophilia?
Define got away though, because
yeah, there's a lot around that.
It's very simple thing. Yeah, that first of all, when it comes to pedophilia, you have the Jeffrey Epstein thing, which basically we got all the records of the people who went on his plane, the Lolita Express. And for money laundering, we have the thing that happened in that island when they got all the records from WikiLeaks.
it's
Well, what's the name of the island?
Bedo Island. We know.
No,
not at all.
No,
The
not
one
that
where
one.
even Jackie Chan was money laundering.
Island.
Practically, if you want practical
Well,
change,
a couple of people in your country were money laundering radars as well. So
yeah. So practically speaking, honestly, I'd rather have someone who served time for marijuana use over someone who got away with this shit.
how would
I don't
you
think
decide?
How will you
How
prove
would
the? How would
Well,
you
the records, the WikiLeaks records.
the WikiLeaks? That's
I
it.
may
Yeah, the
interject.
WikiLeaks. You screaming the WikiLeaks is not an argument, Yasha.
Let's calm down here. So let's
That's all right.
actually
No.
let's talk pragmatically
Okay.
here. So basically, you are telling me that I should vote for somebody who was convicted with a crime, whether I agree with the crime or not. It's not my decision. It's law at the end of the day. Yeah, it's a social concept. If you break the law of marijuana, you don't believe in the law of marijuana could be broken. Somebody else could come in and say, I do not believe murder could be a bad thing. Well, that's the same thing, Yeah, it's a comparison in order of magnitude. I understand.
Yeah.
But it's still, if it's illegal, then it's illegal. But if I cannot prove that somebody actually committed a crime, that's how the legal system works. There should be proof. Got away with is basically you saying, I am sure he did it, but I cannot prove it. Then how are you sure he did it? That's always my question.
The records.
Well, they're
Well,
not holding
this could
public
easily
office,
be
so they
used the
shouldn't.
other way around.
No. A lot of people who got from the records like that we discovered from the records. Some of them are people in power. Some of them are people in office, or at least in major political influential positions. That's one thing. So I'm not talking about an argument of all politicians are probably engaging in the corrupting and the raping and the whatnot. I only mentioned the records because that's the only thing that is provable. You can say, well, why aren't they in jail? They did it in a country where it's legal. That's
Again.
one thing. The second thing. Actually, I was in a class in college, and our professor mentioned this little point of comparison, which I think is the root of the problem here. She mentioned the difference between the US and France. She said in the US, when someone is elected in office like Trump, they'd say, oh, he said like, grab her by the pussy. Some people are like, he has some rape allegations or something like that. In France, people are like, okay, that person, has rape allegations. Would it affect how they run the country? No, it wouldn't. So they'd laugh at how the people in the US think. So I think it is more of a mentality thing. It's a cultural thing. If someone is convicted of marijuana use, how does it affect the way they run the country? If someone is convicted for, let's say, money laundering, you can say that is an abuse of power. By principle, putting them in a position of power might be dangerous. But crimes like someone, even murder, funny enough, I'm not arguing is murder good or murder not. I can argue that, but that's not my point here. My point is, does it affect their competence for running an office? Someone got convicted for drug dealing. How does it affect their competency in office?
Again,
it doesn't.
Again. Yeah, maybe it does, and maybe it doesn't. But I'm saying if I am to select from a pool, a pool of people, that I would want the best from that pool of people. I don't care how brilliant you are. Somewhere in your life, you were faced with a situation where you took a very bad decision, and you actually took the very bad decision. So why should I risk voting you in where I have one out of them, God knows how many thousands of candidates who were basically law obedient, have no problems. Maybe they will become, problematic in the future, but still, I do not see the future. I'm saying, for example, you mentioned murder. There are some circumstances where murder could be a good thing, basically in war situations. Well, what was the American president who was a general, basically? You tell me he hadn't killed a couple of people? Of course he did. Yeah,
Eisenhower?
But still, yeah, Eisenhower, yeah. So that's one of them. I think there's another one who was a military guy, maybe. So I'm just trying to tell you, if I'm to select from a pool, then I would want the best from that. It's like a gene pool. You want the best from the gene pool at the end of the day. If you
how about I present you with a better pool or a better criteria for the pool?
Good. That's
because
what we're trying to find.
Yeah, because I agree with you on your diagnosis, but I don't agree that the solution is effective. The solution I would propose that I think is better is the British system, where the pool you select from is the House of Commons. Someone has to be an MP for a long time and prove their actual political competence in the House of Commons, and then people within their party and within the House of Commons elect them as prime minister, as the leader of their party, the leader of the majority party, and that way your pool becomes the people that you see engaging politically. I love the system of the House of Commons, because the prime minister, you saw them argue before as MPs, you saw them engage, and even after they become prime ministers, they still have prime minister questions. They still get under direct scrutiny from Congress, like the House of Commons, weekly, in their face. To me, that is a better system. Your pool becomes about competence.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but to become a prime minister to begin with, you'd have a clean record. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when in the lowest level of analysis you want to go, somebody who is going to run elections should be at least clean coming in. We cannot guarantee him being clean getting out. We know that from experience, but we want him clean coming in at least. That's the argument. So could that be a criteria for Yasha's town?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like, it's very hard to disagree with that, because we don't really have an epidemic of drug dealers running for office. It's rare to happen to begin with.
We'll never know.
Although in all fairness, we did diverge from the topic because
let's hear Trillian board.
Here's my
Trillian
thing.
wants to make a point. The host wants to make a point. You want him to mute us?
It's very simple. It's very simple. It's regarding the jail, the jail time. and it will circle back. I promise.
Go ahead.
So I watched the video on YouTube, an interview with British MP Jacob Rees-Mogg, right? And he is
Yeah,
like
he's-
very,
Eloquent guy.
he is staunchly conservative, Catholic to the core,
Very
all of
posh
the
in his choice of words.
yes.
Well, the
very,
Prime
very-
Minister.
And in the interview, the person told them, does your Catholic values will ever stop you from becoming prime minister? Is it like an auto kill for your bid to become prime minister? And then she also mentioned that, are people aware of your, for example, stance against gay people, you being a devout Catholic? And he said, very simple, I make my position clear to all the voters of my constituency. It is up to them whether that is desirable or not desirable as a representative. And it has worked so far. And I'm happy to keep doing that. Right? And to me, this is why jail time would be not a criteria I care about much. Because very simply, anything that is all the meritocracy stuff, all that stuff will ultimately end up to this. I will present why it's a good idea to elect me, and it is up to you to decide whether that is desirable or not. And if that happens to be Trump's "Make America Great Again," awesome. If it happens to be Jacob Rees-Mogg's "I will take care of you, but these are my core values and I hope you accept them in your world," great. In the end, you're supposed to present what you believe is true and how things are supposed to be and what you're going to change if you jump in. And it is my responsibility as a voter to actually vote you in, and it is my responsibility to pay for the consequences if I haven't.
Yes, and again, what I'm trying to tell here basically is something along the lines of, if I am to vote, I'm not saying if maybe having it as a criteria could save us the exposed, this person is exposed, this person is of criminal record. At the end of the day, we already have these things right now in play. You have to be somebody who is basically you didn't commit murder, for example. That's one of them. I don't know about the US, but in your country, he should be somebody with a good, basically, record. They don't even define the word nicely in your country, but still, somebody with a good record, but never spoken about credentials. True. So we want now, through Yasha's system, to know how is not being a criminal a criteria, for example, for running. Could that be? Would you think that's advantageous?
Before Yasha says that, I do have to correct one thing. In all
Yes, go
fairness,
ahead.
Yasha was talking about voters, not people who run. I don't know why we diverged to criteria of people who run, but the talk was voters.
I mean,
I
if
think
they
it
are
works the
good
same.
enough to, I think, because if they are to vote, then they could run. I think it just transcends to that. Basically, you're not gonna get the non-voters to be presidents now. This is a big jump. Yeah.
I mean, yes, it is by extension exactly that. I also just want to point out how every single one of us argued for the British system in a way, the way of being already a political figure and making your way up. We all use that as an argument for some reason. But back to the point.
It's a nice
Because
thing.
it works. It works.
It works, but
And
it's
who
the
are we
safest,
arguing
funny
against is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Well,
basically, you're
here's the
saying
thing.
that kind of democracy works. That's what his concern is. The conversation is leading us to say that the British democracy works 100%. No need to change anything.
Oh, you can change a few things, but that's frankly detail.
Yeah,
Concept is good.
I'd like to see the polls on if the British people. I think there exists maybe a poll like that where Every country has something like this, basically, to ask the people if they think their parliament or their democracy represents them. And you'd have sometimes conflicting polls between the vote, the real vote, and the real, poll. But again, it's a biased sample sometimes, so you never know these things. But again, I'd like to see if the British people would believe that as well. Like they believe that their democracy is the way they want to be represented.
No, their poll
actually,
their poll says no. Okay.
Yeah.
There is one thing also we all agree with, which is that the current system clearly has flaws, but we disagree on the solution. So when it comes to my suggestion or my idea when it comes to how to fix the voting problem, like Yasha's solution was limiting who gets to vote. The solution I subscribe to is actually Trillian's solution. Okay, say that you're gonna go.
I have no idea how this thing works, to be honest. The guy just picks up the leaves. He's wearing one of these hideous trousers that should be extinct, but somehow they still survived. Yeah. I mean, it's not a short and it's not pants. It's somewhere in the middle. So I never understood.
They
the
are
utility
called
of
Mahmoud.
Exactly. I don't know the English name. I don't know the English name.
Them. Okay.
Oh, we do know them. Trust me. We do have lots of people selling this from that particular part of the world. But still, I have no idea why people still wear them. They just don't make sense to me. They're not shorts. They don't help you with sporting events. And they're not pants where they actually look nice. They show part of your leg, a little bit of your sock. It's a weird combination. Somebody convince me. Why would somebody buy something?
Okay, you told us
he
had a
want to
small
show up
bladder.
their socks a bit too much.
I did what?
It's.
I said you did tell us he has a small bladder, but is he diabetic? Because it's been like 10 minutes.
No. I mean, it's just that he always has been like that from being a kid. But again, this is one of these things because he would always cut the activity that people are doing. For example, you're in, if your mom is taking you to somewhere where you want to play games or anything, that guy would always. Well, my mom has to take all of us to the bathroom if he has to go, right? Because it's not like we have so many hands. We're kids, yeah? So the caregiver goes and takes this person to the toilet. It's been the problem since we were kids, man. Mid-conversation, he still just goes. Anyways, back to the point.
And you know what I really like about Trillian? I like his humility. I like his sense of fashion.
He is.
I like his beard.
I apologize.
Well, his beard I have problems with, but
I drank 2 cups of water before the stream, and that was a mistake because that means 40 leaks in 30 minutes. So do excuse me, peoples. And I know I'm awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the support.
Yes, you are very awesome. And these headphones accentuate your head extremely well.
Oh yes,
they transcend your intelligence. You actually look smarter than you really are sometimes with these things.
These actually double as like a massaging tool. If I move around enough.
Actually, look at the headphones. I think he wears them so his train of thought gets in one lane.
He is so smart. Like his brain would vibrate, and his shock absorbers taking the punishment. Like he had this designed for him. He has this designed for him. You never understand, Nothing is what it looks like.
I wanted to ask Trillian a question because that raised my curiosity. So Mahmoud said something to the effect of countries have polls, right, to ask the people if they think that their government is representative of them. And he wondered if the British have one. Then Trillian said their answer would be no. Is there a reason for that? Do you know why they would say that?
I think it's a result of the current tide of political distrust because the two sides are so polarized. So
I think it's the Twitter argument. It's just a Twitter argument with these polls. if you care enough, do you actually go and click stuff like that? If you're you're in a good mood,
No.
do you?
No.
Do you really click this
That's the
stuff?
Bill
What
Burr
happens?
argument.
Yeah, but how about when you're like feeling bad about the government? You're like, fuck you. No, of course, right?
Fair
It's the
enough.
same-
That's
the
what I was
same
trying to
argument.
get to.
Yeah.
That is
Just
exactly.
look at people. They marched in the millions against
Who
Boris
comments?
Johnson. And when
Who
the vote
comments?
came, the Tories won again.
Actually,
Landslide.
fair fucking enough. Yeah, I guess I didn't see it that way.
Yeah,
All right,
but
then.
anyway, back to my point.
Happy with the
But
point.
Who tweets on Twitter? It's all negative stuff. It's all people who are just. It's middle finger after middle finger after middle finger. Everybody's is pissed on Twitter. You get the occasional, oh man, I love you so much, and your work is great. But otherwise, it's always your mom is so fat. A meme, somebody middle finger.
Actually, that's interesting because I've seen an analysis of this, and what it basically points to is that Twitter replaced public executions, because usually people went to public executions to actually like shame people and experience like the social the idea of experiencing a local social event, and what when
Dude,
Twitter
that's
came.
Foucault in a nutshell. That's Foucault in a nutshell.
And yeah, when
We talked
Twitter
about the
came,
display of
Yeah, that's why people-
executions.
that's why people like hashtags. It's because everybody can talk about that one thing, and they can feel good about the fact that they were included about talking about that one thing. So yes. Yes,
I mean-
man.
But yeah, back to my point, which is the voting thing.
Good memory.
Honestly, I think, yeah, I think the solution, honestly, that I subscribe to is the one that Trillian said. Actually, that was his argument. It's borrowed.
Hello.
Let's talk a simple example, which is basic thing is I think the voting thing should also be fixed the British way. And what I mean by that is Trillian argued that in my country, Kuwait, we used to have 25 constituencies, and every constituency votes for 2 people. But then that changed to 5 constituencies, and you vote for 10 people then.
5.
Trillian argued that
No.
that was a mistake, and
Yeah. Sorry.
it was 25, 2, and then 5, 10. Trillian argued that this is not good, and we should actually have 50 constituencies, and we vote for 1 person from each place. And that way, the people in parliament they have a local sphere that they can care about. So it's not like one MP like manages a whole area where you feel like you can't reach your MP. You can't reach to them with your problems. But if you have like, the more you can make the MPs localized, the more this area is represented by this person. And you see that in the House of Commons a lot. You have like 600 people or 600 something, and each one manages a constituency, and they just tell the Prime Minister, my constituency has this problem. And it's small enough and local enough that an MP can actually represent that group of people. You have 5 constituencies in Kuwait with like 10 people, like your voice is lost as a citizen. And the voting becomes convoluted, and you feel like you can't reach your MP. But so I think when it comes to, first of all, we agree on the British system that it seems like it's the best thing that's working. How do we fix the voting thing? Well, make the constituencies smaller, make the MPs represent a smaller group of people that is more localized.
And
I think it would work for a country as big as the United Kingdom, because it is. But for our country, we're too small to. I mean, we don't need them that localized because of geographical reasons. We could reach everywhere in the country in 45 minutes. To put you in perspective, to go to the nearest big town, I would need a couple of hours on a high-speed train. That's a difference, a big difference, because now the voice could be lost. But I'm not saying 50-1 is bad. What I'm trying to say, it's not fixing this. I think 50-1 would fix
the congregation and people, for example, I will vote for you while you'll vote for me and stuff like that, yeah? Which the current system does defeat. But again, the current system is just not based on any analysis. It was basically an idea pulled out of thin air, didn't work, it crashed from first time. It was so bad, they had to actually just do with the thing, sacrifice that, and do the elections again with no apparent reason, just because of how bad the performance was. What I'm trying to say is, I don't want people who would get, for example, 200 votes and 300 votes win as a 10th guy, while somebody who gets thousands and thousands would be in the same shoe, kind of. Do you understand me? That's why we need a system where people would vote for more than one person, in our case, because at least I know he actually represents a block, doesn't represent 300 people. Like that parliament, the first one, there was somebody who had less than 1,000 votes, who is now responsible by constitution against the nation.
Yeah, but keep in mind, I use Trillian's argument. Yeah, but keep in mind, I use Trillian's argument for Kuwait as an example, and I'm talking more in, for example, a country like the United States. So it should be applied there.
I think each county has one representative, right?
They do, yeah.
They do, but thing is, for some reason, gerrymandering is legal.
Okay, but
I cannot answer for people. I do not, even hold the nationality.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, I can't. There's nothing I can say about that.
Yeah,
But to further demonstrate, one of the things about the 50-1 thing is mainly to instill democracy in people. Because if you have one guy to blame and you can't elect another in one constituency, then slowly over time, and I said over a 20-year period, you'll grow into democracy and actually choosing the representative that will best suit you instead of whatever's happening right now. So it is about also growing people into the idea of democracy, which means a lot of failed parliaments.
Yeah, I mean, let's be. I'll not comment about the country.
Yeah,
it's just we'll open Pandora's box here. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But usually, I would just say the philosophical system that a democracy needs, that we don't have yet. Things are changing though, but the underlying people still are behaving kind of, since the word is so common now, in a herd-like manner, and solving that is really difficult. You say it's education. I don't think so. It's the fundamental assumptions that are based on the democracy in Kuwait that should change, and changing these would sometimes mean crashing the whole system, and crashing the whole system is too unstable. And with the current times, I'm not saying about Corona and anything, in the current progress, let's take it from 2 weeks ago, doesn't look promising. It just doesn't hold. To demolish that system to a level of a skeleton will demolish the skeleton itself. That's the problem with our system, in a nutshell.
And honestly, one problem is that whenever we talk about democracy, we mention Trump and we mention the US and we mention all of that. Yeah. I think this is the core of the problem, because if you think about it, you can't think about the US in country logic. You can't compare the US to a country. You can compare it to the European Union.
To a continent.
Because we forget that the US is a federal union. And the politics, not only between the counties and the states, are in question, but also between the states, between each other, and the state and the federal government. the problem, honestly, I think exists in the fact that we have a federal union. I'm not saying demolish it, but I'm saying this is the extra layer that's making things complicated,
Well,
especially for the US.
Well, that's what's killing the EU, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's like everybody's at each other's throats because the country's interest is more important than the union's interest. And the same can be said about the United States. The only difference is that the United States was honest about themselves being a federal union, while the European Union isn't. They just want to, sneak it through the back door. While the US, they started as a federal union, and therefore they were able to build it better.
Again, let's switch gears and let's hear Yasha's opinion on this. I'd like to hear what he has to say. So now, after what is happening right now, you could all put on your masks. We're gonna bring the monster in. So yeah. So, what do you think a world post-Corona would be? How are you guys? Nobody's imagining any more than 2 days ahead lately, I understand. But let's say 2 weeks from now. What's going to happen? Could we close the schools indefinitely? Could we actually run everything online and do all of this shit? Like, what's the world after this? Like, seriously, nobody's talking about this anywhere. What's going to happen?
Well, we know for a fact that we will not be able to hold this until August. So
why is August significant?
Because no one's anticipating it to finish by June or July. We're giving it an extra 2 months, say August maybe.
What happens in August? That's the thing. That's not happening in June.
From
or
previous pandemics, the ones we've had, they all tend to die out by June, by July, by the summer. But health experts are saying that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to take
that's what I heard,
more time. So people put an extra 2 months and say, okay, let's assume it is by August. Will we still be able to do all these quarantine stuff and we'll shut down the whole civilization until August? No, we can't do that. Things will move on. I'm somewhat hopeful because I think China's doing a pretty great job so far, unless they're hiding stuff, which I don't think they are.
I hugely disagree.
China's always hiding
whatever
stuff.
China's doing.
Yes,
but
I don't think in this one they're gonna hide stuff. They're kind of all eyes are on.
They did already. They did already.
Honestly,
They
the
did
best
in the beginning,
country,
but now it's too big.
dude, the
The
best
best
country
country-
that handled the coronavirus was North Korea. They found one guy with corona. They shot him on the spot.
But after this is all done with, we're gonna have to deal with the economy. Then everything will be back to normal. It's just
again. That's the problem. No, it's not another pandemic because this is compared to the Spanish flu. There were, let's leave the Spanish flu aside. It killed so many people. Let's see this one. This one we're actually living it now. We're not reading about it. We're actually now going to write about it someday. So, the way I see it right now, how much could you strain countries' economies? Because, when you place a country on lockdown, not all countries are Kuwait. They're productive countries. When you place Kuwait under quarantine and you still operate the oil rigs, nothing changes in the country. You don't, I mean, still, like I'm saying, the shipping still comes in and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So, just taking that into consideration, but still, how much could countries like the US survive something like a complete lockdown? You could lock down Wuhan, no problem, but you're not locking down the whole of China. Who's going to feed China? Who's going to feed the US if you actually go into these measures? Should we operate on a minimum, like we're doing right now? Is that sustainable? What we're doing right now? Is it sustainable for eight months, or would the economies crash? Because I could see them. I mean, looking at the markets today, most companies are just not trading anymore. They're just like, fuck this, we're out today. That's because of how low everything is now, how non-profitable anything that goes is. So could we say, for example, this is gonna sound really shitty and people will cut this clip and make it a video somewhere. I'm gonna repeat whatever the Prime Minister said. Should they actually sacrifice a part of the nation for the sake of economical, not having a recession, for example, not having the markets crash, for example? Is this as important? People do not want to talk about this, and I understand. Yeah, and I understand why people would be very reluctant to comment on these things. But what I'm not saying every human life matters and everything like that. You have to plug in the right words here before I go to jail. So, could we trade that, the old and sick that we might not even be able to protect anyway, or just, you know, running it the way it is and accepting the fact that there is going to be a recession and the economy is going to crash and we're going to recover? Yeah, you guys have them. That was a long introduction, but yeah, whatever.
Honestly, I don't think that what you say is like should piss off people. At least not me. And the reason why I say that is because if the coronavirus evolves or the situation evolves enough that it reaches that dire level, then we are dealing in crisis logic. We're dealing in crisis time. And one way I view it, there is no winning in a crisis situation. It's just a matter of how do you want to lose. You will lose something. It's a crisis time. Everybody's a loser. It's like Les Mis, that play, if anybody watched it. It's like everybody is in that struggle and everybody's a loser, and it's just one of those tragedies of life. That's what we have to go through. So they might resort to that, and if they do, honestly, I may be resentful, but I don't think I can blame them. It's a crisis situation.
Yasha?
Well, I definitely agree with the point that everyone's going to lose something. But see, we've been seeing different countries go at different approaches to how they want to do things. Some countries, so the littlest sign of it, an outbreak in their lands, and just shut down everything. I know in Hungary, they had 3 people and they shut down the universities. And by the time it's 7, everything's shut down. You have countries like the UK, which is like trying to fix some muscles and be like, we're going to do the herd immunity technique. And we're just going to lock up the people who are in danger and leave the youth to start building some sort of immunity. And everyone's criticizing that in different ways. Some say, oh, your health system will not handle it. And some say, it's a virus. You might not even get immunity to begin with if it mutates. Those are fair enough, but I think if at least one country is going to do that, maybe we can learn something from that. Canada, I don't know what they're doing. I think Trudeau doesn't know what he's doing, but they're going to do something. They're going to do something, I hope. But regarding the recessions and the economy...
You're inclusive and welcome the disease in.
Yeah, of course. Except the homeless, they can go die. Anyway, for the recessions in the economy, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I don't think there's much we can do about it. Let's just hope it ends as quickly as we can, with as little sacrifice as we have to. But people are gonna die, and economy is going down. I'm more leaning towards the side that we're gonna have to take it and do our best with it.
Trillion?
Okay, so to me there are 2 main factors of analysis here that make me interested in this corona thing, which is we've never had an epidemic happen during the age of social media. A lot of what happened, the panic buying and a lot of the government struggling to put this under control happens to come from the panic that comes with a medium that allows for fake news, that allows for panicked reactions on social media platforms, and all of that stuff. And because this is the first plague or the first pandemic we had during this era, I think it's of interest to analyze how the trends get controlled. For example, okay, there's no pasta in the stores. There's no toilet paper, and that came a lot of people posting images of their local stores saying, "What the fuck? There's no toilet paper," making other people from other like the other side of the country who don't have that problem panic and go to their stores to get the toilet paper, and all of that happening. So it's the first time we can study the social effect of this epidemic. And again, a lot of people die as a cause of this, but that's how everything was fixed. The safety features that came from buildings and high-rise buildings, the escape routes and all of that happened because one place caught on fire and people couldn't escape, and they all died. And so these safety measures got included, so that tragedy never happens again. That's how we learn as people. Something happens, we don't know what to do with it, and then we fix and match, and so we don't repeat the same amount of suffering. So that's one thing. The other thing, this is the first pandemic that happened in a legitimate globalized world where factories become specialized. So one country specialized in gathering the material, they send it to another country where they process it and send it to another country that makes the stuff and then sends it to the country that consumes it. This age our level of technology allowed this, but it had never been hit with a pandemic like this. And so one of these places get hit with the corona, suddenly the production chain is destroyed. You cannot get your stuff anymore. A lot of money gets lost, stock market drops, everybody suffers, a recession happens. I don't think it will reach recession level, but it is the first time like the weaknesses of a global economy will be shown through this virus. And so I believe companies will start reconsidering the idea of a global chain and would at least have a safety measure in local markets. So instead of outsourcing all your factories to China, you may want a few factories in your own country for the tougher times, losing money on them, but making sure that if a hit like this happens, that you can still do your things. I also think that a virus like this will give will make countries consider more the idea of using the internet as means to upgrade our less than modern disciplines. So education, for one. A lot of people are going for online classes now. I don't see a reason why certain universities may not come back, or rather, to rephrase, would go back. Instead, they would okay, this online thing seems to be working. Maybe let's give it a course. Let's try giving people online and see whether it actually has merit. So it will push people towards using the tools we have when before they didn't really have to. These are the things that we will survive this, and we won't be damaged as much as people think. I don't think it will reach a recession level. All it will really do long term is it will make people reconsider the reckless direction we took into an increasingly globalized and information-based world, and maybe either bringing up the things that are backwards and bringing down the things that are a bit too forward.
Still, the question remains. Yeah, okay, but fair enough. The behavioral dimensions of this should be studied. Yeah, in terms of human-to-human interaction lately being so friction-like all the time, that people are basically picking up fear sometimes. That's fine. That's normal, actually. Mm-hmm. It happened with many things, yeah? When another regime starts to threaten another regime, you can see the whole country is kind of fighting in the comments and stuff like that. It's always happened. Yeah, this is not a new phenomenon. Whatever is happening right now is a question that people should start to answer. What is acceptable damage? and what is not? As in, for example, are we okay, for example, with taking kids out of school for a whole year and basically making this basically a gap year for everybody? Or could we, for example, could we just put schools for nurses, for example, who have kids? I mean, they don't have maids where I am right now, yeah. So kids have to be somewhere where mommy is away, yeah, and they go to school. So how about that? Should we shut down schools and then have these people now maybe not show up to work sometimes? And let's leave that aside. And how much are you willing to sacrifice from these children's education, or, for example, out of career opportunities for other people? Are we going to place everything on hold until we take care of this, or should we find a way where we could actually work with it in parallel, like we did with swine flu, like we did with bird flu? I mean, this is more contagious, I understand. Yeah, like the data was, when I was looking at these curves, there was nothing as exponential as this in a while. Nothing just takes off. And by the way,
I think we should accelerate it personally.
That's where it's a problem, yeah, because people are talking about peaks and whatever, flattening curves, and I don't understand the math behind this, to be honest, but it looks good to me. Yeah, it's in theory, herd immunity looked good to me when I sent the article I sent you. Maybe you'd actually send it in the comments for your audience. Maybe
Sure.
they would pick up on what herd immunity actually means. But still, this looks good on theory. Yasha brought a very fair point. He said, clinically, we do not understand this virus as well as we think we do. What if we start getting it again through mutation? Well, it mutated all right, jumping from bats to humans. Yeah, it mutated all right. What's stopping it mutating again? Or is this going to be the new flu? Would we find a cure? And then this becomes one of these things where you take a couple of pills, corona, bye, gone. From what I understand is the shortages is with beds right now, with medical high intensive care unit beds. Yeah, because the old folk cannot basically fight the virus so efficiently and breathe well at the same time. They need this heavy equipment, expensive equipment that they have little of. And that's why in Italy, for example, people are dying. The youngest case that died in Italy, I was told by a friend today, was 29 years old with underlying health problems. So again, it is kind of, I hate to say that, it is kind of the old guy's problem still. But again, we do have friction. Your country, for example, is known for family gatherings where all ages mix. That's a problem. That's zero protection for these old folk. Are we sacrificing them for the sake of normality? Or are we not sacrificing them and doing whatever a country like your country is doing, lock everything down, lose the economy, which in your country's case doesn't apply because it's an oil economy, but still the other people who took the same measures? Should we work in parallel or not, and why? That's a better question, maybe.
I think it's about time for less than universal ideas. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when it comes to health and when it comes to all these things, when it comes to work, we say age doesn't matter, things don't matter. Your merit and what you can bring to the table matters, so you should care about that. I think now it's about time we get off our high horse and get practical on that. So if you're old, stay home. You lose money, we'll make it up. And
Again.
the people who aren't old,
they're retired anyway. They're not
if they're
making you any
retired,
money.
that's not a problem.
Yeah, it's not about their productivity. What worries me, it's people who are in friction with them all the time. That is worrisome, because at the end of the day, a caregiver, would you pay them? Would you pay a caregiver sick leave, for example? Would you introduce universal basic income for people who can't go to work because they have a family liability? Well, liability is not the better word. He's a caregiver of some sort. Let's be politically correct here.
Isn't that what you usually do in any financial crisis? and this can be considered a financial crisis. You up spending and you reduce tax, and that way you can make sure the economy doesn't die.
Yes. People are doing that right now in the US. I've seen like a couple of bills being passed upon that in a hurry, actually, which is good actually for the people. But still, for example, whatever the UK is doing right now sounds great in theory. Yeah, they're not going to have a very big problem. But again, your theory is as good as the people actually buying it. And if I showed you the streets today, people are going out, the younger people, but the traffic is minimal. Actually, I haven't seen uni so dead. The streets, I mean, people are just, and the masks and everything. Let's not even go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's always going to boil down to is actually what we're doing right now, or what countries are doing right now, just making sure their healthcare system doesn't crash. Are we all going to get it eventually? Is it one of these things? It's a matter of when, not if. Are we dealing with something like that? Then whatever your country is doing doesn't make sense, or it would have made sense on whatever I told you in the beginning of the podcast here. Is basically they're trying to create more beds just in case the outbreak hits. Until that happens, we're going to shut down everything. There is a serious conversation to be had here. What to do in the next 6 months? Just you're saying lock down the old folk and any caregiver, and everything goes to normal. Whoever is sick, he remains in his house for 7 days. That's the UK strategy. Yeah. Yep. I don't know how much is it working. It's been a week since that announcement. But I know I didn't catch it yet. Hopefully. But I don't know about other people. I mean, I should catch it. I mean, to be honest, I should catch it because really, I was not locking myself down until 2 days ago. I should. Look. Let's be honest on air here. I did have a fever at some point, but I don't know. Like, is it that? Is it something else? How would I even know without a test? And they're not testing people unless you are hospitalized. So nobody knows.
How many times did you cough in the last 72 hours? That's
definitely not even numbers, Yasha. Definitely not even numbers.
I don't know why that's.
I was actually counting. Ever since Corona hit Kuwait, I sneezed only once.
See, when you get to the even numbers, then you have to be worried. So if you sneeze 7 times, that will be fine. If you sneeze 8 times, then that's not going to be fine. That's how it works.
Corona is in the world to remove your boomer superstition, okay?
I don't know, but seriously, like everybody has been saying facts about Corona. I should have came up with my own as well. If you sneeze, that's a fact. If you sneeze an even number of sneezes or coughs, not the cumulative, you don't add them together, because when you add odds, you could get an even number. But no, individually, if you actually sneezed an even number, you should go get tested. An odd number, then you have.
I'm at even cough, so I'm 50% worried right now.
Well, look, man, look.
Cough quickly.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Just go for it, man. Just breathing in smoke, Smoke, man, it's fine. And don't quit, people. Just smoke. It's fine. It's survival of the fittest anyway. It's not like, treat this like, people are listening to this, treat this like a car accident. You don't stop driving. You just wear the seatbelt and say your little prayer in the beginning. That's all you do. Treat this like a...
I mean, you're still more likely to die falling down the stairs. That is truth. So
I don't know about these numbers, but he doesn't seem convinced.
I'm too sleepy. I think I'm in 3 hours I'd be awake for 24 hours. But I'll try to at least discuss the point you made, because you did ask a lot of questions. But primarily I'm going to address the point, which is how should we do it in parallel, or would it be acceptable to shut down?
Please do, sir. Please do, sir.
All right, I'm going to ask you two mythological questions. The first one.
Okay.
Do you know the tarot card, which is the tower?
What do you mean by that tower? Explain yourself. Tower of Babel?
It is.
Okay.
Tarot
Yep.
cards, the tower.
The tower symbolizes the
and-
Tower of Babel.
Yeah, and are you and do you know anything about the Hindu goddess Kali?
Not specifically, but I am aware of the literature. Maybe if you would expand, I'll come around. I'm not good with names.
Both of these, it's fine. Both of these things, the tower and Kali, both of them are used to represent one idea. You see it very clearly in the card, the tower, which represents the Tower of Babylon. And the tower always shows it burning down. And the idea is people will always create civilization and will create their own systems and they will create their own powers. And then suddenly you have this flood or you have this fire and you have that basically breaks it all down and humbles people. Same thing with Kali. Kali is used a lot to represent the rage of Mother Nature. So you have your systems and everything, and then nature just takes over and sweeps the whole thing. Why do I mention that? I think that, and this might be a grim opinion. I swear I'm not trying to be edgy here. It is a legitimate opinion I have.
Speak your mind.
I think the system we created is a bit too neat. We're too used to the world after World War II. We forgot World War II. We're too used to life expectancy being high. That's why the idea of shutting down schools for a whole year or something seems unfathomable, or at least unsavory for the people, because we're too used to a very controlled, safe world where everything should be in control. Now, as Yasha said, we don't know how the virus will evolve. Is it going to be another swine flu where it's going to disappear, or it's going to be full-on The Walking Dead? We don't know. But I'm saying, if it's going to be the full-on Walking Dead, we might as well be at least ideologically and emotionally prepared. There is nothing wrong with the tower. There is nothing wrong with Kali. Our system is too neat, and people way smarter than us already talked about the idea of it just breaking down. We're not immune to decay. We're not immune to chaos.
I mean, that's another way of putting what I've said.
And if it reaches the level that we have to shut down schools and lives ruin and we become like post-apocalyptic, so be it. It's not our choice. We didn't choose it, but come one, come all. If it's going to come, it's going to come.
It does look like a choice to me. It's like, look, some countries are going that route and some countries are going the other route. It means there is choice to be had here. There is conversation to be. But again, it is a plague, and it is maybe something that would reshape the nation as a flood would be in the Tower of, the stories you mentioned. Yeah, a flood or a fire or a couple of collapse, or people who don't talk the same language building something and then it collapses, something like that. But still, the point is here, is it going to help the case if we shut down everything and lock ourselves in? Is that a kind of life that we are expected to have until somebody somewhere comes in with something that resembles a cure, which is faster than a vaccine should be? I mean, in theory, at least. Yeah, go ahead. You seem like you.
Well, I don't know about you guys.
Wait, which one?
All I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
All I know is Mountain Blade Bannerlord is coming, okay, and I can use no life to be had outside, so I can abuse that game. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, fair enough. But here's the deal. You said that people do have a choice. You said some people took this route and some people took that route. Here's the deal. It's too early for us to know if one of these choices is invalid. Because like you said, what Kuwait is doing, which is be protective, self-quarantine, all of that, is it sustainable? How long is it going to take? Maybe it ends up being a devastating disease and it's all a matter of all of us will get it. It's just a matter of one. Or maybe it's going to be another swine flu. So we don't have two choices. We just have two predictions. We have two applications. We don't know which one of them will stand. Maybe we actually end up going, the medieval logic, where, everybody gets it, everybody gets the flu and die from it, and we live with the fact that life expectancy is now lower. It could be that. It could be like we'll find a cure. Who knows? We don't know. But
actually, there is a steering right option. And the steering right analogy that I've put is like, when in doubt on the road, steer right until you figure out where you go. And right is the safe lane where you're allowed to be slow and make a better decision. And
unless you're in the UK, then it's the complete opposite.
Then it's steer left, yeah. But in my analogy, it would be steer right. And the steering right option is putting things on lockdown for now, and then seeing what to do. The next step for the next 2 weeks is actually seeing how countries who didn't steer right, what happened to them, and then going like, okay, based on those results, we can go back to normal. Or
we're 1 week away of you figuring out the data anyway. So don't worry. People who are actually biting their fingernails, it's only a week until the UK actually starts seeing the fruits of whatever happened. So let's hope we're alive by then, for my sake at least, because I did make the choice not to go back home, basically. And I'm going to say it on this platform as well. The only way I return from the UK is with my degree or in a casket. That's all.
A big boy. What a big boy. Man.
And okay, to wrap this stream up,
judging by what I heard you're studying, I think you will return with both.
All right. Fair enough, my man. Fair enough. You could be right.
Okay, closing remarks, because we did pass the 2-hour mark here, and I don't want some people need to sleep and some people need to do other things. So, closing remarks from everybody.
Yasha, you start. I didn't say anything.
Thank you to Corona for uniting us on the internet. I've talked to friends. I've talked to friends I haven't talked to in like 3 months.
Oh, that's what you mean. All right, then fair enough.
Oh, not that kind of unity. The kind of playing games unity.
Yeah, you always need the tragedy to have people reconnect, right?
Of course.
That unites at the end of the day.
Yep. Who's next? Who wants to be next?
Arasan or whatever your name is. What? I'm not familiar with these things, Don't even laugh at me for it. I don't even know what the name means.
Arsanon. You are now Arsanon. I do not
care. And that concludes my closing remarks. No, I'm kidding.
You're that sleepy? You had a lot to say earlier. Come on.
Meritocracy.
Yeah, no, that's you. That's not me. The sleepiness only brings the salt out. It has always existed.
Yes.
My closing remarks would be that, again, I would thank the coronavirus because it proved to us a fact of life. The thing that runs the world is not money. It's not politicians. It's your aunt's WhatsApp group.
God bless.
That's the future of journalism. That's the future of journalism. And them ending end-to-end encryption is for them to take power from the Karens and the aunts because they're on the wall.
I love the way you like these things. Yeah.
Drink water every 20 minutes. If you drink water, the virus goes into your stomach and dies because stomach has acid, guys.
I've heard worse. They said one of these incense things. If you would actually put incense in the house, choke yourself, close the windows, and choke yourself breathing in smoke, then that's how you kill the virus. Just imagine.
I've heard Egyptian lady argue that sex is the way to heal it.
And
some people said jerking off
the...
would be the solution. So.
And yeah, shout out to all the great scientists who lost their life experimenting just so we find the solutions. And by that, I mean that Persian guy who thought alcohol cures corona and he basically died of alcohol poisoning.
Thank you, Persia, in general.
Seems like
your scientific endeavors will not be forgotten.
Seems like he was enjoying himself too much, but I'm not going to out that guy. Anyway,
At least he's not in Tehran right now.
That's true. That's saltiness, by the way. Yeah, he didn't mean that in a good way. So yeah, well, you guys have been very complimentary of the coronavirus. The coronavirus could go fuck itself with a toothbrush. I don't give a crap, about the coronavirus. The only thing that's really nice about this is we are figuring out how not to do things in the future, and that's good. Respirators should not be all made in China. Masks should not be all made in the US or whatever. I'm just talking bullshit at this point.
Right.
So, and again, we shouldn't close down schools. We should all brace ourselves, take the hit like real men. At the end of the day, this is one of these things. It's just like the car. Wear your seatbelt, say your little prayer, go to work, people. Everything's going to be fine. Trillion, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, first of all, we thank everybody who came here for a very, very, very rich political discussion. And everybody remember, we have a Discord group. It will be linked in the description later on. And maybe it should be linked now. Arasan, do your magic, please. And everybody's welcome. We can talk. You can see more of this discussion there, or you can play Minecraft like what I've been doing for this entire vacation that we've been having.
A world free of Corona and his Minecraft. Join people.
Yes. Elon Musk was right. We have to move into Minecraft. Okay, it's infinite resources. What more do you want?
Then somebody like Mahmoud would come in and create a virus for this thing. And there we go.
But again, I thank everybody for showing up. I hope to see you guys on the next one. And remember, if the plague worries you too much, and if you think the apocalypse is happening, remember, they will never get Greenland.
Oh, they got Greenland.
Oh shit! We have a pro plague.
We're done.
We're done. It's over. Everybody, do everything.
Everything is over.